Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of No Trailers Allowed, my movie and streaming show podcast where I do not watch trailers beforehand. I'm your host, Jersh. If you enjoy this podcast and you want to find more episodes, you can visit my website, superjersh.com. If you want to support me and get this show early and ad-free, you can find me on patreon.com/superjersh. To watch the video version of this podcast, you can visit youtube.com/superjersh. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram @superjersh. If you want to email me to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, or suggestions, the email address is NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. I want to quickly welcome new patrons Aaron, Aryzona, and Michelle. I want to thank Patreon executive producers Mirrors, Tris, and Daryl, and thank legendary Patreon producer Zelbinian. On this episode of the podcast, I'm going to review The Eyes of Tammy Faye. So I know I just said that I'm going to review The Eyes of Tammy Faye, but I have a special guest. Speaking of Patreon executive producers, Mirrors is on the show today. Say hello, Mirrors.
Hello, Mirrors.
You know what's great about that, Mirrors, is I think the last time you were on, or actually when a lot of guests are on, and I have them say hello, the microphone always hesitates, and there's like this 3 seconds of silence, where it's like,
Yes.
hello, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, is it going to go out again?
That didn't happen this time. We had good microphone right away.
The curse is broken.
Well, knock on, pray to gods, whatever. Anyway, so Mirrors graciously agreed to join me for this episode and maybe a few extra ones as well. And we thought it would be fun to talk about just some shows that we've been watching, maybe games that we've been playing, do like a separate segment before we actually get into the movie review. Now, I'm sure Mirrors and the 5 people listening to this podcast are chomping at the bit for gossip about Ezra Miller and Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and more. Can we talk about Will Smith slapping people some more? Can you keep his wife's name out your fucking mouth? I get it. I got it. Okay. I don't know. I feel weird talking gossip. Like, I understand the appeal because I consume it myself. Like, I stay up to date with, like, the latest entertainment kind of, like, gossip, the big headlines, like those ones that I just talked about. Like, I've listened to them from other creators and I'm familiar with them. I just feel like there's so many other voices doing that. What is one more voice? Who cares what I think? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. After I mentioned, I was like, maybe we shouldn't.
Well, and I mean, if there's enough interest, like from the patrons, from the hardcore supporters that have been here forever, who genuinely want to hear my opinion on that stuff, who either want to hear me pile on or hear me dissent and have a completely different take from the general opinion, maybe we can do like a Patreon exclusive post show where there's like some sort of gossip corner or something like that. I just don't want to make it like a regular thing where it's like expected, like, oh, tune into No Trailers Allowed because we're going to hear all the latest gossip, get your popcorn ready, whatever, because there's all plenty of other YouTubers out there do that, you know?
Yeah. Superjersh spills the tea.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, if you want us to chat about that in the future, you just will have to email me and let me know. My assumption is you're here, if you're here at all, just for anything that I want to talk about randomly, or maybe there's a specific movie that I talk about, you know? Otherwise, I don't know what the hell you're here for, if anything. So, Mirrors, what are some things that you have been watching recently?
So I've been really into a miniseries called The Dropout on Hulu. Have you heard of it?
I think I've seen it promoted, and I think it stars Amanda Seyfried, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't know anything about it. I know it's about apparently some famous pharmaceutical woman who ripped off a bunch of people. That's literally all I know. I don't know the context or when it happened or how it happened or anyway.
Yeah, it was Theranos was the name of the company. I so a couple years ago there was it was either a documentary or like a news special that came out about it. I kind of remember when it went down. I didn't really know what it was like. I was confused on what exactly that she did, but I knew that she was in trouble. And
And
so I
wasn't
watched like
wasn't it
hmm?
recent as well? Wasn't it within like the last 10 years or something like that?
Yeah, it was I want to say 2017 or
Oh
2018 is
wow.
when they got shut down. It started so she started so like the show starts out in 2001 when she's about to go off to college, and then that it just kind of that's the birth of the company and the
Okay.
patent that she came up with. And I won't say like too much of what, you know, all that it's about, but so I knew like what it was about. So I was interested in seeing it when I saw that it was coming out, and it's really good. The one issue that I have with it is that like it'll tell you, so like when the year changes it'll come up and say like what year it is,
Uh-huh.
but then it'll also like give you a ton of context clues saying what the year is. So like 2001 it was showing like everybody had a bunch of American flags in their yards. Um, and she was listening to music that was like popular that year.
Right.
And then the background on the TV, it's like 9/11 footage.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really in your face, and they do that a lot. That's like the one issue that I have with it is that it's like really in your face. Like, okay, I get it. It's it's 2009. I get it.
Right, 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 right.
Um, but yeah, that's the one thing I think she's gonna get nominated for it. I think she should win.
For probably lead actress Emmy. It's a television series, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
limited
I think she
series.
yes, yeah. And the guy that's her, like, business partner, I can't think of his name. He was in Lost. He was
Give me the character name, I'll know. He
he's
was in
either
Lost.
yeah, I don't wanna get let me see. Uh,
How are you watching it? Where's it streaming?
it's on Hulu.
Okay. Is it who? Okay.
It's Naveen Andrews. Um,
Oh, I remember
mhm.
him. I
I
remember
can't
that.
think of his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's really good in this.
Yeah.
He's really, like, transformed. He looks just like the guy, like, everybody and you'd be surprised, like, there's some serious A-listers in it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's really good. I really, encourage everybody to watch it.
That's the Dropout on Hulu. And yeah, I think my sister also started watching it, and she had mentioned that it was based on this real life thing that was recent. And I feel like, is it not still going on? Isn't she like going through like trials and
Mhm.
stuff?
Yeah, she's gonna sentencing is in September.
So yeah, so there's like, so it's still, I just feel like that's like a really good example of how like society doesn't have patience anymore for anything. Like the story's not
Right.
even done and we already have the miniseries. We don't even know what the
Mhm.
fucking, it's like, it's like when something happens, it's like we cast and start shooting, and then we're waiting on real life so we can shoot the scene. And then what happened? Okay, and now we say this. You know what I mean? It's like let things breathe, let things happen.
Well, they did that with the Drew Peterson movie.
Don't know
You
that
know who
one. Oh
Drew
no,
Peterson? Kaylee Cuoco was in it, was his wife, where he, like, killed his ex-wife.
that's like that's like what
Rob Lowe was him.
I
Can't remember.
vaguely remember that. I feel like
The wife of him.
The Gone Girl movie, like really mirrored that,
Mhm.
but just yeah.
They made that, like, before he was, like, sentenced to
Hmm.
prison for murder. So they made 2 endings. In case he got off, they had, like, an ending where he was gonna ride off on his motorcycle.
Shut
So
the
then they
what?
waited to release it until they found out. So it's like, just, like, wait and make the movie.
Yeah, I'm nostalgic over 10 seconds ago. Let me tell you. I already started making the film about 10 seconds ago. You're never going to believe it. Sequel's on the way. It's already here. Um so yeah, so that's the Dropouts. Have you happened to catch any Severance yet?
I have not. I
Nobody's
don't
perfect. Don't feel bad, but
I know. I've thought about getting Apple Plus, but I don't know. I feel like I have everything
so
else.
you haven't watched Coda
That
either?
no,
Oh my god, you're missing out.
I know.
It's worth just the $5 just to like rent the movie and watch Severance, then get rid of it.
Well, my issue is I feel like I'm not gonna be able to get rid of it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna find things on there that I like, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't get rid of." Like, I did that with Hulu, where I tried it out a little bit, and I was like, "I can't get rid of it."
That's fair.
it's an issue I have.
I would say, I'll also say, I don't know, I'm sort of like a visual snob too, like the fidelity of the image and like how clear and crisp the picture looks. And for a long time, HBO Max had like the best streaming video quality in my opinion. But everything I watch on Apple Plus looks better than HBO Max. I'm just like, I can't believe how clear and good this looks. Again, not an ad. I'm just saying my own personal experience is that I'm just like really happy with the visual quality and I don't know. Yeah, I spent the $5 to be able to watch Coda to record the podcast, and then I watched Severance on a whim, and now I'm like, holy shit, this might be one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I can't. That's why I won't stop proselytizing about it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I will eventually. It's just
you'll give in.
if I'm yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I'll give in if I'm willing to keep it around, I guess. But yeah,
it's inevitable, Mr. Anderson. Tris binged it already in a matter of days. She couldn't stop watching it, so I feel justified in my recommendation. What's the other thing that so the Thor Love and Thunder trailer got released this week as well, and the name of this podcast is No Trailers Allowed. So of course, I am abstaining. I have not watched the trailer. I've barely seen half of a still image that I always scroll past when I happen to see it on Twitter. You know, I mute words. I have deleted Twitter in the past and I will again if I have to, but I always start with trying to mute words and see if that solves it. But Mirrors, let me ask you, have you seen the trailer? Or what is your familiarity with it?
I have not seen the trailer. I so whenever it dropped, I was on Instagram, I was scrolling, and it immediately starts playing
Mm-hmm.
once you scroll. And I saw just like the first maybe 10 seconds. And then I was like, I probably shouldn't watch this. I should like wait and be surprised.
You
And
made
then
a
I scrolled
conscious.
down, and then there it was again. Scrolled down, there it was again. And I was like, all right, I'm out. And then I saw a picture that like a friend posted that I knew was going to happen, a certain character that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to like, wait for the like let it build up and like
Yeah.
sit in the theater and be like, oh my gosh. So that's out the window.
So in solidarity, because of I don't know. I'm assuming you did that because I've also been proselytizing for don't watch trailers. It makes movies better. I've been doing that
Yeah.
for almost a year now. Like even I think even before I started the podcast, I had been doing that, and that's what gave me the idea to rebrand the podcast in such a way because I was so committed and in love with this idea of I like movies better when I haven't seen the trailers for them because the story gets to speak for itself. So, well, good luck to you. Know that I'm in your corner. This is basically a support group now.
Just continue to keep each other accountable.
Yes. Um, yeah. Oh, it's been I'm 25 days in without watching the trailer. I've almost made it to the 30-day mark. So I know that trailer dropped, and for movie related content online, there's probably a lot of very popular views that I could get for doing a reaction. I used to react to movie trailers early on
Yeah.
in my YouTube days. Um, but I've gone full reversal. My character arc has completed to where not only do I not react to them, I refuse to watch them in any capacity, maybe for the rest of this lifetime. Um, at least movies I know that I want to watch. Like
Yeah.
if you told me like, you know, Kirk Cameron is starring in an Uwe Boll film, I'm like, all right, let's watch the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't give a fucking shit. So, is there anything else that you've been watching recently that you wanted to shout out or recommend to people, or warn people to stay the hell away from?
Well, I saw the Batman in theaters.
Okay, so on the subject of warn people to stay the hell away from. Okay, that's what sparked your memory.
No, the total opposite.
So you tell me, Mirrors, what did you like about the Batman? And even
Right.
though
What's
you were in the camp of liking it, what criticisms do you have of it? And did you listen to the podcast episode after you watched it to understand my criticisms?
Yes, yes. I listened after I watched it. I okay. So I agree that it it dragged on a little long.
Mm-hmm.
There were definitely parts seemed like there was nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think that I enjoyed most about it was the atmosphere.
The mood. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I because it was so long and because they made it like seem even longer. Like I felt like I spent half the day in the theater watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You did with the yeah.
it was like, okay, I'm now a citizen of Gotham. I'm living here. I felt completely like consumed by it. I was like entranced by it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was just Robert Pattinson. I don't know. Um, I really liked it. I liked the. I know you didn't care for, I guess, too much the fact that he was basically just like Bat Detective.
So
Um,
it's not that I don't like that idea. I love the idea. I hated the execution because it was the same scene done 5 times in a row. It's there's been another murder, there's another question mark envelope, Batman comes stand around. Oh, I can't believe Batman's here with Gordon. Like it was literally that same scene over and over and over. Like you could have lost an hour of this movie. You know what I mean? That could have been a montage. And again, this is just my personal opinion talking about economy of time, I think the mood still would have been there at a 2 hour and 10 minute movie. You know what I mean? I don't think it needed to be a 3 hour movie. But my problem was they had this one concept and they didn't, it just wasn't really explored in a way that I would have liked. I would have liked to, I don't know. Yeah, it just wasn't as compelling as it should have been, in my opinion. The very first, like the opening 20 minutes, setting the mood, the
mhm.
introduction of the world, the first time we get a Riddler note, I'm like, I fucking love this movie. I genuinely was very excited in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But then when it was like, oh, that's our only trick, there's nothing else to show, we're just going to keep doing that until we get to the end. And then when we get to the end, we're going to have this really bad Dark Knight interrogation room ripoff. And I'm just like, I don't, and yeah, you lost me. It's none of the actor's fault.
Yeah.
I thought R. Pats was great. I thought Zoe Kravitz was great. Colin Farrell was unrecognizable.
Yeah, that could have been anybody under there, honestly.
Yeah,
You know,
and really it is it speaks to
but
the real inequality of world, which is uh casting devastatingly attractive human beings in ugly roles. Like if ugly people can't get the ugly roles, what the hell are we supposed to do with their fucking lives? You know what I mean? Like, oh, like you get all the pretty roles. You can't put makeup on me and give me the pretty role. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think about that a lot where we talk about, casting decisions and who should play what role. I'm just like, all these like already successful and lucky and attractive people just going under 5 pounds of makeup to take those roles too. Give me a goddamn break. Like, imagine if somebody who like naturally had penguin aesthetics got to play that role. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if they put out a casting part that was like, are you a theater actor who has like 5+ years of professional experience and you look like
it's
the
a
penguin?
it has a beak.
Yeah. I mean, at least with Danny DeVito, they chose his body type was naturally penguin-esque, and then they added some prosthetics to him.
Right.
You know, I'm surprised they didn't tell Colin Farrell, "I got bad news, buddy. We got to chop off your legs because this character's short." Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, the Batman's out. Things that I've been watching. I recently finished season 5 of Rick and Morty, which I had not gotten to watch for a long time. It came out last year, but I think it was only on cable for a long time, and I haven't had cable in over a decade. I'll probably never have it again. I just knew I would catch it on streaming. Like 6 months later, it finally made its way to HBO, and then when it finally came to HBO, I still didn't have time to watch it. I finally made time over the last couple of weeks because they're 20-minute episodes, Finally made time to watch them, and I liked the season. It's definitely the weakest season they've ever done. Like, and again, I know you haven't watched the show, but they have done already so many insanely brilliant episodes, like from concept to comedy to character growth to like from an individual one-off episode to overarching trajectory of seasons episodes. Like they've done some brilliant, amazing, jealousy inducing things on that show. You know what I mean? Where it's like this is so fucking good. It's unbelievable how good this is. So the bar is so high, and I just feel like they're gonna keep trying to reach it because that's their job. And this was still, I mean, if the past 4 seasons were 10 out of 10s, this was like 8.5 out of 10. Like it was still completely enjoyable. I still would watch it with the rest of the seasons back to back. I think Rick and Morty, fandom insanity aside, is one of the best sci-fi comedy series ever made. Like it has so many There's like throwaway gags that could be an entire trilogy of movies that you're just like, wait, what does that character do? That does what now? I want to hear more about that, you know? Um, and they're so rich with ideas in the series that it was a bummer to find myself kind of zoning out a little bit because it's a really fast paced show and it asks for your complete attention the entire time. The dialogue is fast, the plot is fast, the jokes are fast. It's not a slow. It's not a phone you can like be browsing Twitter on, or you'll miss a sight gag, or you'll miss a setup, or you'll miss something. But I do recommend people watch it. I I highly recommend people watch it basically from start to finish because um, it starts strong. And I know Mirrors, you're a Back to the Future fan.
Yes.
It is not a coincidence that Rick and Morty sounds like Doc and Marty.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of like fan art, like crossover stuff, and yeah, I've
Mhm.
heard that it's kind of based off of
Loosely
that.
inspired by that, yeah. The kind of that dynamic of like older, insanely intelligent scientists and then young growing up. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, kid, and they kind of like bond over their differences. And in Rick and Morty, it's actually his grandson. It's his daughter's son, so they're like related, and he's trying to like reconnect with the family and reconnect with his grandson. So they go on these adventures and stuff. And anyway, I do recommend people check out Rick and Morty. Just ignore the fandom, ignore the online bullshit, ignore the memeable moments and like the hype. Like just seriously enjoy it for its writing and storytelling because it's so good.
So the
Um,
the fans are crazy. I haven't heard anything
yeah,
about.
so there was I don't want to spoil anything in the show, um, but there was a significant moment a few years ago where they brought up Szechuan sauce from McDonald's on the Rick and
Okay.
Morty show. Like it's kind of a significant plot character point in an episode.
All right.
Like so McDonald's, for people that don't know, a long time ago, like I think in the 90s or maybe even early 2000s, they used to have Szechuan sauce in addition to the other sauces you can get, your barbecue, your ketchup, your horseradish or whatever. I think it was around the time the original Mulan came out, they started to offer it and it stuck around for a while. Anyway, they got rid of it. And I will, okay, so slight spoilers for Rick and Morty. Literally 30 seconds of spoilers for like the setup of Rick and Morty, so I can explain it, okay? And this doesn't ruin the show for you either. I wouldn't spoil it for you. But in the episode, a character goes into his own mind and goes into his memories because he wants to go to McDonald's when McDonald's had Szechuan sauce. Because he
All right.
remembers the Szechuan sauce. Okay? Anyway, so in real life, fucking millions of people started badgering McDonald's to bring back Szechuan sauce because it was brought up in Rick and Morty that a character loves it a lot, and they fucking did. They brought it back. McDonald's brought Szechuan sauce back because Rick and Morty said they liked it, and it was like this whole like toxic fandom debate. Like, why did you? Who gives a shit? Like the point of the joke was that it's this weird off. It's this weird off joke that doesn't make any sense. That you shouldn't get it back because the point is you can't have it anymore. That's the whole plot concept of going into your own memory is having something that you can't have anymore. You know what I mean? Like anyway, so yeah, there's yeah, every extreme fandom has toxic corners. That one has like an octagon. So just ignore the fandom and watch the show, I say. Anyway, enough preamble. Let's get into the movie we wanted to talk about today, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Did you know that if you support me on patreon.com/superjersh, you can get this podcast early and ad-free? You probably didn't know that because you're listening to this promotion right now. Which means you also probably didn't know that there are dozens of hours of Patreon exclusive content over there, like full album music reactions and full movie watch-along commentaries. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh to help the music and movie discussions continue. And for you gamers out there, don't forget to check out my gaming-focused YouTube channel, youtube.com/jershplays. Recently, I've been focusing on Guild Wars 2, Overwatch, and Fortnite, but there are also dozens of hours of gameplay videos for single-player games like Detroit Become Human and the Resident Evil series. Subscribe to that channel ASAP. It's free and helps a lot. Speaking of free, if Patreon isn't your thing, make sure you are liking the posts, commenting, sharing, rating, and reviewing, and subscribing everywhere that you can if you enjoy anything that I produce, music, movie, or gaming related. The only way it can continue is with your help. If this is all too much to remember and you want to see the different types of content I'm producing all in one place, just visit my website, superjersh.com. The Eyes of Tammy Faye stars Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield and was directed by Michael Showalter. We are going to go ahead and give you a full spoiler warning right now. This is a based on true story movie that is a fictional dramatization of a documentary that was already made 10 years ago. Spoilers for real life for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I'm not going to worry about doing a spoiler-free section for this one. And honestly, because I don't watch trailers ahead of time, and I barely, I don't know, maybe Mirrors, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like in my spoiler-free sections, I barely say anything of value because I'm so afraid of giving anything away that I just want to get to spoilers and be able to talk freely because I don't want to ruin experiences for people. So yeah, I might just get rid of spoiler-free sections altogether just because of how my show is, where I had no expectations. I don't know what's out there because I avoid it all. So I don't know what is a spoiler, so it's hard for me to talk spoiler free.
Right.
So anyway, I do want to ask, even though full spoiler warning for anything related to the Tammy Faye. Was it Jim Baker was his name?
Jim.
Yeah, Jim Baker.
Jim.
Jim. Any of that Jim drama that you may not be aware of in real life. I will say I do recommend watching the movie. I think that it's definitely worth your time. It's on HBO Max. Also, it's been out for a while. It's been out for like 6 or 7 months now. So, again. Anyway, Mirrors. Before you get into the movie itself, can you tell me what your familiarity was with the Tammy Faye kind of Jim Baker saga as you knew it before you watched the movie?
Yeah. So I had never heard of them at all. Like I knew about like the boom of televangelists, but I just never heard their names before. And actually, the first time I ever heard of Tammy Faye was about like 2.5 years ago when I started seeing stuff about Drag Race on the show. One of the drag queens did a Tammy Faye impersonation.
Oh, wow.
So that was my first. I didn't know who that was, and then because RuPaul is like a huge fan, which we
Really?
can talk about in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I heard that the movie was coming out, and I like Jessica Chastain, and I like Andrew Garfield. But I didn't I didn't plan on watching it. Then one day it was on TV, and I just kind of started watching it,
Mm-hmm.
and I only saw probably about maybe 20 minutes of it, and I was like,
Okay.
okay, this is pretty good. And then so I thought we gotta watch it and talk about it.
Okay. So had you seen the trailer beforehand? Did you happen to see the trailer for this one?
Um, I don't remember. I mean, I probably did, or at least saw like a commercial on TV or something, but I didn't know anything really.
Okay. So then, now that we have your familiarity out of the way, I'll share mine. I also didn't really know a lot about them. I was familiar with the names. I had heard the name Tammy Faye. I had never heard the name Jim Baker. Um, I just knew that she was a televangelist that wore a lot of makeup. That's what my memory, that's what my mind told me when I heard the name and saw the name. And also when I saw, when I pulled up the movie, or what was it? Or maybe it was in the Oscars when they showed a still image of her because she won best makeup or something like that. I was like, oh yeah, that's that woman. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, that's that person. But I did not watch the trailer beforehand. I didn't even know Andrew Garfield was in this movie until I read it in the credits. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I also had no familiarities with the real life situation. So we're kind of coming at it from similar perspectives here. So let me ask you, what did you think of the movie?
I really enjoyed it. I watched it 2 days ago, and I've been thinking about it ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought the acting was great. I mean, there's, I don't wonder why Jessica Chastain won. She was perfect.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield was really, really good in this, especially because I've watched like interviews with the real people since then,
Mm.
and to see like how closely like they nailed it.
Hmm.
Like Andrew Garfield sounds identical to the real Jim
No
Baker. It's
kidding.
insane, and they look just like them. It's crazy. But yeah, I love them both. Um, I was just really entertained the whole time. It was funny.
Yeah.
Um, it it was just a really entertaining movie. It was not. I don't think I expected it to be as like kind of lighthearted, I guess, and fun as it was. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. I'm really glad that I watched this movie because I'm echoing your sentiments. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining. I enjoyed both of their performances. I also enjoyed the performances of some of the side characters. The mom, played by Cherry
Hmm.
Jones, which shout out
Hmm.
Signs. She was the police officer in Signs. Um, Vincent D'Onofrio, who played Jerry Falwell,
Hmm.
this like extreme right wing pastor, bigoted person who. Vincent D'Onofrio is, of course, a fantastic actor, and here he committed to it. You know, the way his mannerisms and his the way that he elongated words and this deeper octave that he spoke in. I thought he was like a really good supporting actor in this movie and played his part very well. Yeah, Jessica Chastain. At first, when I first hear the voice and see kind of the insane, over the top personality that I'm getting at the introduction of the movie, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, was this literally just an Oscar chasing performance? Did they like fall for it and get duped into giving her this award? And then like as the movie goes on and it's so consistent and it's so genuine, I loved her performance. There's like 100 like positive things that I could say in this movie. The one thing that like stands out that I want to say that like really impressed me was the different types of crying that she did in the movie. Because I feel like getting an actor to cry for a scene in a movie, just A at the top is difficult. To convey a kind of vulnerable emotion is difficult. To convey a vulnerable emotion believably and to convey different variances of a vulnerable emotion. Like, not every single cry in this movie is the same. It's like it is it's tantamount to the situation. Sometimes it's like a light guilt cry, sometimes it's a life-changing heave. You know what I mean? Like her emotional responses to her poor decisions and the poor decisions made against her, um, I just thought was like really kind of like masterful, especially considering it probably was shot out of order. You probably didn't know which cry scene was gonna stack up against the other ones, and if they were all gonna feel authentic, you just kind of had to trust the process and go with it. Like, yeah, that kind of stuck out for me. Um, Let me ask, how do you think it made Tammy Faye to be completely like innocent when it comes to the illegal activities? Because it seemed to me, and again, I definitely want to like probably watch the documentary that this is based on as well now, but I feel like based on the movie and the type of persona that she was portrayed as, she genuinely didn't know what was going on. It didn't seem like she was indicted. It didn't seem like she was arrested. She didn't go to jail for anything. It seemed like he actually did keep it all from her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably depends on who you talk to. Like, I mentioned to my mom that I watched it, and she was like, "Oh, they're both crooks. The
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, they both are in on it. She was in on it." Um, I don't know. And, I can't say, and she's not here to defend herself.
Right.
Um,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah, R.I.P.
Apparently, Jim
Um,
Baker's still alive, and in 2020 was like peddling some anti-vax
oh yeah,
snake oil
he's
medicine or
still at it.
something.
Yeah, he's insane.
He's just a charlatan through and through, you know.
Yeah.
Um.
Um, I like to think that she was pure of heart, especially learning about what she did, um, since, after Jim went to prison and even during, as we saw in the movie, about her support of the LGBT plus community.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what she's known for. That's what RuPaul loves her for, is that
Mm.
she was basically like everybody, should be who they are. Um,
And
you
that's
know,
that's way ahead of her time, by the way,
yes,
because that
yeah.
was I mean, in the 90s is when this story ends. And so when they were in the prime of the story in like the late 70s, early 80s, that's when she was saying that message, which
Mhm.
was completely unheard of just in society, let alone in right wing society.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved anytime that, like, she talked about it, like, they were scrambling, like, "Oh, no, wait, what's she doing? What's she talking about?"
Yeah,
Um,
it was like I was uncomfortable. I was like, "Oh no." It's funny how like the movie takes you there. Cuz I'm like, you're in the company of bigots. You're saying things that the bigots aren't going to like. I'm in your corner and I'm scared for what the repercussions are going to be. I wish you wouldn't talk about it. Like I don't want you to talk about it because I'm afraid of what's going to happen to you for
mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I'm in fear. I'm fearful of you. So imagine how she felt in real life, which maybe I guess she didn't have fear, which is why she was fine talking about it on national television to millions of religious people. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you have, I don't think, I think if you are a charlatan and you're trying to milk people for money, you don't go with that message because that's going to cost you viewership from that audience. You know what I mean? Um,
But yeah, I'd like to think that she, like, didn't know, or, like, that wasn't her intention, that she
mhm.
was doing it all with good intentions, thinking that she was, this is for, because they didn't just do stuff, for Christians, they did it for, like, single mothers,
Everybody, right?
homeless
Yeah.
people, like, that everybody.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I hope that she didn't, like, knowingly rip off people,
Right.
but, but
I will say, I also appreciated how, um, I don't think they were all good or bad, either of them. You know what I mean? I think they were human beings. They acted in their self interest. They seemed to mostly be well intentioned, but also wanted to be well off themselves. Whether she was, she wasn't against it clearly. She could have, any day, she could have said, "We don't need this mansion," but she lived in the mansion. You know what I mean?
right,
Um, but she also could have very easily, and again, this I'm talking about the movie. Who knows what the real life is? But
right.
it seems to be heavily based on the documentary and the book written about her life. So I'm assuming that a lot of it is mostly, factual. But again, it's a movie. Who knows?
And
But
there were 2 directors of the documentary, and one of them is a producer on RuPaul's Drag Race, and RuPaul narrated the
no
documentary, so
kidding.
that's how she's, like, one of his favorite people.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so yeah.
When so I want to talk about it, grand scope of the movie. Then I want to talk. Then we can get into specific parts of like favorite moments or things we didn't like, and then we can, I guess, get out of here. But it seems we both really loved the movie. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't not like it. I genuinely loved the movie. I also liked, like, I talk about all the time. I've been talking about in like the Life is Strange playthrough, right, on the gaming side, how it's 90% character development, and then at the end of a chapter, here's like 5 minutes of plot crumbs I'm going to throw at you, right? Whereas
Yeah.
in this movie, even though it's a movie and things have to happen fast because you don't get the time to live with people like a game, like a mini series, you've got 2 hours start to finish to intro characters, set up the world, create conflict, create change, and resolve this all, right? I felt like that there was a really good pace to the movie, that things
Mhm.
escalated their career, their rise to the top, the interpersonal conflicts that grew in between them, and the tension that built in between them, and the tension that existed in their families. Like so often in biopics, the parents are the first 10 minutes of the movie when you're a kid and you don't see them anymore. And this one had the parents along for the ride, how
Mhm.
their success and rise to fame kind of impacted the relationship with the parents, and how like Tammy never felt like it was good enough, like she was good enough even with all the success, and the mom kind of almost disowned her, but then at the end she didn't really. Like the parents, like the whole family dynamic was like a part of the story from the beginning, including her strange kind of puppet thing where she talks to herself, that
Yeah.
what she
Yeah,
started.
'cause yeah, at the beginning when we see that she's basically kind of like the black sheep of the family because
Uh-huh.
she was from, um
A prior marriage.
right. And so, like, how her mother said, like, if, you can't go to church because if they see you, then they're reminded that I'm divorced and we're going to all be kicked out and all your siblings are going to go to hell. And
that, yeah, that like genuinely upsets me. Like, to me, that was like almost like mental abuse. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
that's something that I appreciated about the movie, is like it was honest about what right wing religious points of views are, which is you'll burn in hell. We're gonna be fucking burned alive in hell. Don't be gay. Don't be this. You have to be this. Like, that's how millions of people actually think to this day. And
yeah,
similar to like racism, it's like you're not born thinking that, you're taught it by a prior generation who didn't know any better. You know what I mean? So
right.
I felt really sad for her. I felt really sad for her whole life because she seemed to be like, this naturally nurturing and caring person, but just because of how her circumstances of how she was brought into this world, she was brought up in this religion that she was told is the truth, and she would kind of was trapped by that. You know what I mean? Where I just imagine, I don't know. But then again, maybe it was good for her to be there because she was expanding minds that were against those ideas. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's strange, but yeah, the seeing that she was the black sheep of the family, and like just how like indoctrinated that her life was like genuinely terrifying to me. And um yeah, anyway.
And do you think that she like faked speaking in tongues?
100%. Absolutely. Because, and I think, and again, this movie did a really good job with shorthand, like giving you just a little bit of information that you need and moving on. Like her mom,
Mhm.
I still remember her mom was like at the dinner table, she was like, quit performing or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
that tells you right away that she's a bit of a showman herself, that she likes to be the center of attention herself. So, of course, oh, my first day in church ever, God possessed me and I spoke tongues. Of course that happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, there was
Yeah.
definitely a need for attention and a need for adoration that she shared with Jim. Maybe they shared that together, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've known people in my real life who actually think that that happened to them, that
Yeah.
God entered their body and they and that's like God talking. Did you know that if you support me on patreon.com/superjersh, you can get this podcast early and ad-free? You probably didn't know that because you're listening to this promotion right now. Which means you also probably didn't know that there are dozens of hours of Patreon exclusive content over there, like full album music reactions and full movie watch-along commentaries. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh to help the music and movie discussions continue. And for you gamers out there, don't forget to check out my gaming-focused YouTube channel, youtube.com/jershplays. Recently, I've been focusing on Guild Wars 2, Overwatch, and Fortnite, but there are also dozens of hours of gameplay videos for single-player games like Detroit Become Human and the Resident Evil series. Subscribe to that channel ASAP. It's free and helps a lot. Speaking of free, if Patreon isn't your thing, make sure you are liking the posts, commenting, sharing, rating, and reviewing, and subscribing everywhere that you can if you enjoy anything that I produce, music, movie, or gaming related. The only way it can continue is with your help. If this is all too much to remember and you want to see the different types of content I'm producing all in one place, just visit my website, superjersh.com. And this is the type of insanity that we're dealing with in the world. Please be logical. Please be reasonable. So yeah, I think she absolutely like knew what she was doing. But again, the heart was in the right place. It was, I want to be a part of this church. What's going to get me into this church? You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, the what was I going to say? So yeah, I loved the plot, the pacing, the storyline, how something that disappointed me about House of Gucci is that we didn't really get the aftermath. It kind of culminates in the crime, and then we just kind of get and then they went to jail the end. Where in this, it's like after the crime happened, the movie kept going. We found out the sentencing. We watched her age. Like, we got
Mhm.
Tammy Faye from childhood till late 60s or 70s before her death. You know what I mean? Like, we got the entire life, start to finish, and we got to see the ramifications of the crime. She even visits Jim in jail. You know, like,
Mhm.
so it was really satisfying on a story level to get a little bit more extra past the culmination of the drama of the crime, you know?
Mhm.
And I also really felt like I also recently watched The Irishman. Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Okay, I won't spoil it. It's a brilliant movie. It is very, very good. It's one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. It's also probably the last real performances that we're gonna get from Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci came out of
Oh.
11 years of retirement to be in The Irishman.
Oh, I didn't know they were in that.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
they're all in it. They're the main cast. It's like the last big time gangster flick that we're gonna get from all of them, and it's absolutely worth watching. It's riveting. It's a very good movie. It's very long. It's 3.5 hours, but I
Mm.
like for every like it was 3.5 hours, and it's a faster watch than Batman, in my opinion, because a lot of things happen. So many things happen in that movie, where I don't feel like The Irishman is repetitive in the slightest. Because again, I won't spoil it. Anyway, what I want to say is like House of Gucci, The Irishman, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. They do this really beautiful and almost scary job of like showing lifetimes from start to finish and showing you like how serious and meaningful things are in the moment, and then when you get to the end of your life, like, yeah, I guess I'll go die now. I guess none of that really matters because nobody even knows who I am. Like at the end of Tammy Faye, it's like, who the fuck is she? She's, like, her neighbors are like, I don't even know who you are. You're just the scary old lady who wears too much makeup. It's like she lived a
Yeah.
life, she saved lives, she was a phenomenon, she was a millionaire, she was all these things, and it's like time doesn't care about any of us, not even you. So it's just as like I felt like this like lump in my throat, and when I get to the end, it's like, oh my god, it's like, what was it even all for though? Like, what was it all for? um I also loved at the end when she was performing for the inmates, how we got to see how she was seeing herself on stage with the
Yeah.
choir and the backing lights.
I loved that where it like, you because I thought, oh, we've got a whole
Me
backing
too.
choir, and then it cuts to where it's that was so good.
Hmm.
That was so good.
When Speaking of the Irishman, Jim's assistant, who he had a an affair with,
Right.
it turns out he had a lot of affairs because
Yeah.
he was a really bad guy. He's a jerk. Um,
Yeah.
his assistant is also in The Irishman. I was like, oh shit, it's that guy. um, anyway, when she is eavesdropping on Jim's conversation with his assistant and his makeup artist, and they make fun of her makeup, and she sees him like wrestling around on the floor with him, and she realizes what the situation is. My heart
Yeah.
sank for her. Like when they made the joke, I was like, ouch, fuck. From you? Everybody else is gonna make fun of her, but like, ugh.
And he even was like, "Oh, no, no, we can't." But then he like, "Okay, I've got one."
Yep.
Like, it just showed like he was just so two-faced.
Mm-hmm. Very performative. I also thought I thought that the extramarital situation with her and the record producer was like also told really in a really great way, and like teased early on with like this where it was like her and the record producer together on one side of the glass and Jim on the other side of the glass. Like there was a good cinematography in this movie too. I loved the look of it. I loved the color. It was a gorgeous movie to watch. The different eras that they go through and the different looks that she has, and it just
Her hair.
and you talked about Andrew Garfield earlier. He's fucking great in this movie too. I haven't seen the real life footage, and I still loved Andrew Garfield. I just thought he was just like so great and such this perfect like wimpy man who wants to be stronger than he is, and the second he gets money it all goes to his head. You know what I mean? Like, just was so good. And his makeup, the makeup, because again, we're watching this in 4K. If there's a crease we can see it. Like movies you watched 20 or 30 years ago, you can see the makeup lines because they weren't expecting you to ever be able to see it so clear. And this is like this is a modern era movie, and that makeup is just it's perfect. It looks so good.
Yeah, it was really good. And apparently she said now that because of all like the makeup that she had to wear, it's like stretched her skin out and it's like ruined her skin.
No fucking shit.
Yeah.
I need to watch her Oscars acceptance speech now. I've
Yeah, I
always
haven't.
yeah, I want to watch it because definitely deserved. What a performance. So yeah, my favorite parts of the movie were was her when she finally cheated. She still is like feeling like, oh, I can't give in, but I'm so neglected. Oh, just kiss my neck.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so believable. You know, like I believed that she even when pushed to that edge, she still would like feel even being everything she was doing was completely wrong. She still was looking for a way to justify that it wasn't wrong. And then
Yeah.
she actually went into labor. That was oh my
Yeah.
god.
At a very inopportune time.
Yeah. So yeah, my favorite parts were definitely the mini story with the record producer, the eavesdropping on them, and then yeah, yeah, I just yeah, I pretty much loved it all. Were there any was there anything you didn't like about the movie?
Hmm.
That answers that question.
I was gonna say not there was nothing where I was like, "Ooh, this isn't good." Um, I'd love well, I'm going back to what I love
Yeah, no,
now.
go ahead, dude.
Um, the just how just showing like how kind of like dramatic and fake everything was, especially with Jim. The scene where they had to go and like kind of say that they were I
Beg for
forget what
money.
yeah, where they and it was like dark and then it
Yep.
comes up.
And they're like, "Hello, everybody. Please give us your money." And then the lights turn down, and it's like, "That was pretty good, right? The phones are ringing."
Yeah, that just like the little stuff like that was so good and just like the attention to detail because like I said I look back and I watched the interview where like she's in red and they're like defending themselves
Yes.
after like everything's out. That was so spot on. I
Wow.
mean just how much like work it went into to make this movie was incredible to me because I mean they really just it's down to the I mean just so detailed.
I mean, I would say that this movie probably doesn't get credit. It probably gets overlooked in that department the way that like cover bands get overlooked where it's like, yeah, you didn't write the song. It's like, yeah, you're just recreating. You didn't have to come up with the drama. You're just taking from real life and you're telling a story that already happened. But yeah, the dedication and the attention to detail to faithfully and accurately recreate those things and give you and try to give you the experience of watching it for the first time and seeing what it was like from the people who lived it, I think is a real challenge and was really successful in this movie. If I had any criticisms at all, you probably can't help it because it is based on real life, and they probably were so entrenched by right wing religious only thoughts that I would have loved to have seen like the other side. I would have loved to seen like secular do-gooders or anti bigotry people, like the outside world that was against them for reasons that it should kind of just a different perspective because it all felt like one perspective, and that was the point because it's about her life, and her life was entrenched in that. From a movie perspective, I would have liked either just for dramatic purposes or for character purposes to see where she stood on some other situate other things, you know what I mean, like
Right.
substance abuse or climate change or evolution or whatever, you know what I mean, like because it seems like she's pretty much, religious thoughts through and through, except for you're allowed to be gay as well or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think that God wants you to is okay with you being gay or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I read in a trivia that character that she does that live on television interview with the person who's been diagnosed with AIDS.
Mhm.
I read in trivia about the movie that they never reached out to him for permission to include his story or his likeness in the movie, and his thinking was they probably assumed he was dead. He's still alive. He's alive to
Really?
this day. Yeah, he
He outlived Tammy.
yeah he's yep by a wide margin. She died in '07, And
Yeah.
so once when he saw that the movie was released, or saw he heard that he was included in it, he found a way to reach out to them to say, I'm still alive, you should probably talk to me about putting my story in your movie. And they did, and you know, and he said it was fine, and they were you know, they were awesome. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So a few things outside of the movie. Apparently, it bombed. Apparently, it was a financial disaster. Nobody went and saw it, and probably because I think the poster is a disservice to the movie. I'm looking at the poster now, and I feel like they thought that's what was going to sell the movie was look at Jessica Chastain and all this makeup, but really, like you're one of two people. You either grew up in the time frame that the Tammy Faye story happened, and you're like don't care and you're mad because she was just some criminal evangelist, right? Or you're us who I don't fucking know what the story is and no, like looking at that movie poster, I don't want to see a televangelist movie. No, thank you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but it's so not that movie. It's like it's a personal story about a person brought up in a certain worldview who had goodness in her and did the best she could to spread that kind of within the confines of things that were completely out of her control, you know?
Right.
So I also
What
thought
did
the
you Oh, I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say I also thought the music was really good. It was
That's what I
very
was gonna say.
it reminded me of another it reminded me of the Interstellar score
But ironic, Jessica Chastain.
in that too. Definitely better in this movie. I think she was underutilized as older Murph in Interstellar. I don't think she had a lot to do. Like
Yeah.
again, like I love Christopher Nolan. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time that I rewatch over and over. Interstellar, Inception, the Batman trilogy, whatever, right? I even enjoy Tenet as obtuse as it is. I liked Tenet. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, like, you know, emotion and attachment to character is not the strength of his movies. The plots are the strength of his movies. Christopher Nolan goes the other way. He's 90% plot and here's 10% of some character shit some once in a while. You know what I mean? Like he's like and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens and a movie is a machine. um but uh yeah, I thought that she was like totally just really great in this movie, and I loved the story, and I did love the music. It reminded me of the Interstellar score. It was like somber but wistful and dreamy, and kind of like her life. I feel like, you know, it's like
Yeah.
it was kind of dark, but it was kind of amazing, and you know that's all of life, I suppose. So I don't know. Any last thoughts on the Eyes of Tammy Faye?
Um, yeah, it's one of those where I could see where people would miss out on it, and not, think anything of it. I Hopefully her winning the Oscar for it, like, kind of bumped up viewership.
It's why when we
Um,
were trying to think of movies to do next, it's what I was like, well, I already covered a bunch of other Oscar movies this season. I might as well catch up on this one.
I
So,
was surprised that you hadn't. I could have thought you might have covered that, but
yeah, I will tell you, Coda is a lot better. Like, I like this movie a lot. If I had to give it a number, I'd say probably 8.5 or 9. Like, there's not a lot to dislike about the movie. Coda is basically a perfect 10 for me.
was this nominated for Best Picture or no?
I think it was. I think it
Okay,
was.
can't
Let's
remember.
find out right now. Really quick. It was nominated for Best Actress and Makeup.
And Andrew was not nominated for it,
No, he
or
wasn't. He was nominated for Best Actor
because
for Tick Tick Boom,
yeah.
which I actually think I do think he was probably better.
Well, that one I feel like that I haven't seen it, but I feel like that's probably a more involved role, right?
It was, I
He like
yeah
the singing and
yeah. I also think um I mean he was the center. He was the lead actor in Tick Tick Boom, where here he was the supporting character, you know,
right.
and so he was given more room. No, it was not nominated for Best Picture,
Hmm.
just actress.
Yeah, I saw
and
on, I
makeup.
think it was on IMDb or something. It was rated like a 6 or like 5.5 or something. I was like,
I can't
what?
believe that. Yeah, I can't believe that. Like the acting is so good, the story is so good, the makeup, the music, the cinematography, the eras that they take you through with the wardrobe and the performances. And similar to what you talked about in the Dropout earlier, where a lot of movies really overkill it with that stuff. Like
Mhm,
even this is a totally obscure reference and I don't expect anybody to remember it, but The Conjuring 2 that takes
mhm.
place in London literally starts with like a montage of the British flag with London Calling playing. Like they just kill you over that. We're in London now, hey, like I didn't think this movie did that. I just think it was apparent the eras they were going through just based on how they were acting and the way the technology evolved with their show.
Mhm.
I just thought it was like really perfectly kind of orchestrated and displayed. That is going to do it for this episode of No Trailers Allowed. Thank you so much, Mirrors, for taking the time to record this episode with me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to find more episodes, you can visit my website, superjersh.com. If you want to support me and get this podcast early and ad-free, you can visit my Patreon at patreon.com/superjersh. To watch the video version of this podcast, I am on youtube.com/superjersh. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at superjersh. If you want to email me to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know what you thought of the Eyes of Tammy Faye. I really want to know what people think about it out there. The email address is notrailersallowed@gmail.com. I'm also on Spotify and iTunes if you listen to those podcast services. Find me there, rate and subscribe. It would really make a difference in helping the podcast grow and find an audience. The internet is a very crowded place. As always, thank you for watching or listening. Until next time.